Hi, I'm Kelly King from CRK Training, and in today's post we have another special one for you because I traveled from PA to Ocala, Florida, where I am with Caroline Ryder, who, if you've watched some of my other videos, you've probably heard me mention her name before because I'm really a big fan of her work, and I've been down here for the last 3 or 4 days getting an education, and as we're wrapping up, I wanted to do an interview to share some of that with you. So again, this is Caroline Ryder from Ryder Horsemanship, and I think what I want to start with is, like we talked earlier, a lot of people know you for your liberty work and the amazing things that you can do with your horses just loose and riding them bridleless and bareback. So let's start with that. You know, what kind of got you into that and why is that so special to you?
Okay, great. Thank you, Callie, and welcome. Hi, everybody. This is Sydney and this is Bear, by the way. Oh my gosh, the liberty. Basically everything, when you're free with a horse, whether you're on the ground free with them at liberty or you're riding bridleless, that's the truth of the relationship and the truth of the partnership. So my entire methodology, the way in which I teach and interact with horses, the way of being is so important. The relationship is so important, and the partnership is so important. So the love and the language and the leadership, all of those things balancing out and working together. And the liberty, it's a beautiful dance. It's a joyful dance of the souls when you're happy and you're enjoying that together. It's a unity, it's a oneness, and then taking that into the riding. There's nothing else like it. So that is the ultimate of where I want to be, and the feedback of where I am with my horses. So, yeah,
that, you know, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's pretty obvious just seeing your work with your horses, how tuned in you are to them, and you know, they're just the same. They're so tuned in and locked on.
Yeah, they are.
But the next thing that I would like to ask you is, I think the riders, where they are at mentally and just where they're at emotionally, plays such a big role in our working with horses, but it's often overlooked. So can you talk a little bit about that? Yes,
absolutely. When new students come to me that want to begin this approach, this way of being with horses, working and being, it's the first thing I want to do, and people hire me for this as well, is give an assessment. So whether I come to assess your horse specifically for a few hours, I'm also coming to assess you and the horse and the dynamic and the relationship. So when I meet students, you know, that are having any kind of more challenges, whether it's fear, or lack of confidence, a lack of consistency in their approach with their horse, anything that might be giving them a certain hiccup, I'll want them to come, if they can, work with my horses. And working with my horses, or any horse that has spent many years in this way of being with you, that are so tuned in and emotionally agile, they're not going to get triggered. So we all have our own unique dynamic with our horses, and our own relationship. I do with mine. You know, they can pull some things with me that they're not going to pull with other people. But, you know, for me to really get a clear look at where my student is, it's really important that they come and work with one of my horses. And then my horses are able to better help assess that student, because they're not attached to that student. I don't know how to put it. It's really deep. It's a wonderful foundation to have your horse in a place where they don't take on the energy or the emotions of another being, and they're such high sensitive creatures, species by nature. So they're so tuned into everything. And then that way I can say, okay, if I see the student and I see their horse, then I'm like, okay, this is kind of a dialogue. It might be a way of being that you've had for a while. I'm not quite sure where you guys are in this, but if you come and work with my horses, it's so much easier for me to, it's just much easier for me to say, okay, this is where your energy is showing up, or this is where your body language is the strongest in the way in which it's communicating to the horse. And I deal with so much energy work in the first 4 chakras especially, so it's really easy for me to gauge someone when they're working with one of my horses, even their horse working with a horse. It's easy because the horse is such a great mirror of that source of energy or trapped emotion or those feelings.
Yeah, and I can certainly attest to that after the last few days, because like I said, I'm down here and obviously working with your horses, And there were a lot of things that I have been kind of stuck on with my own horses. And it was funny how the same stuff showed up with your horses that my guys do. So that was good feedback for me, that some of that stuff is more just me being stuck, not necessarily
excellent, excellent.
So that was great. I guess the next place that I want to go is we all want to have more connection with our horse. You know, there's just something about the horse that a lot of people are so drawn to, and
spiritually, like intuitively, there's this magic. Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
Yeah, which is interesting how, you know, all little girls like love horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
But along that line, I feel like sometimes that whole wanting to have a connection and a relationship with the horse is kind of put out there like it's some kind of a foo-foo thing, or it's just some people believe that they can't have that with a horse, that the horse isn't that kind of an animal. And, you know, I know you certainly disagree with that. I certainly disagree. So can you talk a little bit about what connection means when you're working
absolutely. So the connection for me and in my work is an intuitive response. It's an intuitive response that we have to the horse and that the horse has, that we share. This is part of that union, that connection. And my job is to help people that are attracted to my method are very intuitive, and they know they're intuitive by nature, and they're more tuned in, basically. You're just, intuition is being more tuned in through your senses, being more sensory aware, and energetically as well. So the connection piece is, again, tuning in to your senses and tuning in and becoming more embodied when you're around the horse, and not so in your mind and cognitive, but more, come here, bear, more embodied. And then connecting that piece to the horse, we have specific ways of being in the relationship and interacting, as well as exercises that help hone in. Lay down, buddy. Come here. Bear, lay down.
He's such a lover.
He is. I know. He's obnoxious too with it. I know. So the exercises help to hone in and cultivate that connection, and how that shows up is it's very mindful. It's a mind-body integration and synergy and alignment, and it shows up in the work. You've done the work both at Liberty with the horse, and the way the horse is so engaged visually. They're on you with their mind. Their body is wrapped around you. They're not just automatically or, you know, going around you mechanically like a robot. They're totally tuned into you, both mindfully and within their body. And then the soul of the horse shows up in the way they wrap themselves around you, especially when you call them back in to join with you. It is a heartfelt space that we're creating. So the connection that is very deep and on many layers, and it's the mind, body, and soul that we want. And it's the soul of the horse that is part of that relationship that is also what's going to keep you safe. When that horse really takes care of you and considers you their herd, they're going to take care of you like a baby and like another member. I've seen my horses attack horses, not viciously, don't get me wrong, but to protect me. I mean, it is amazing, and I'm very honored when they are politely possessive. You know, they don't do anything that's going to cause harm to me or someone else or another horse. But that connection piece, it's in the mind, in the body, and in the soul, and it shows up in the work because the horse is so hooked on. They're so hooked on and engaged to you. And we're not just sending them out in a technique and an exercise that engages the body only. I want that mind, and it's an energy that we work on within ourselves as far as the tempo and the rhythm, how fast and how slow we want them to go. So for the connection piece, to bind it, it's the glue that binds. So to bind it, the squirrels, good luck, Miss Arthritis, come here. So it's the glue that binds is really about that energetic piece, and it's so important that the depth of the connection is when that horse is so tuned into you, both intentionally and energetically. And we work, when we're on the ground, I'm teaching my students to embody that movement and that energy, and it's the same that you would when you ride. So we take this embodiment to the riding, and then it allows new students to get the feel of the trot in their body before they get on. And then it's so much easier for them to encourage, and the horse is so tuned in on the ground to that energetic tempo. It's effortless by the time you get on.
Yeah.
It really, and I'm not talking about new horses. It takes a few more days because they're new and you're always developing their balance without you on and while you're on. But when you have a horse that's been around 12, 15 years old and you want to teach them this, they already know how to walk, trot, and canter with a rider for the most part. So to have this ease of movement and oneness like the centaur, it's very special. That's the magic.
Yeah.
You know, it's an endorphin high, I call it, because you both are there together intuitively and in that heartfelt space and in that moment. Yeah, it's a great place to be in.
Yeah, and I think it does make sense that since you have such a good connection and
Lay down.
you have that feel, you know, you of your horse and your horse of you, how you can do the really cool stuff with your liberty and your riding.
And that's part of it. That's part of the foundation. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm always working on technique. I love dressage. I love Western dressage. I love reining. I love jumping, hunter, you know, but it's working on the technique to refine it. It's just like when we start at Liberty with our horses and we teach them our free lunge at Liberty with this beautiful circle and arc for balance and strength and hind end and coordination. You know, we also refine it online because we can tweak it better. You know, we've got them online and we've got the whip here, and it's like puppeteering. It's just easy to really tweak that body and get them physically to stretch and create that strength even more. No different than riding. I still like my bits here and there and my saddles here and there, but I prefer to ride bitless. And ultimately, I love the bridleless. And the cool thing is, when you create this foundation, I can go a year without riding bridleless, and I can go a year without Liberty. They don't forget it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's not something that you have to practice all the time.
Yeah.
That you don't. That free stuff you don't.
Yep.
Yeah, it's there, and it's easier than when you're trying to get, you know, my horse into a longitudinal frame and really get her collected. You know, I can get her there, but I'm not going to get her there bridleless. You know, I can get her there with the aids.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's different, but it's beautiful. I love it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very cool. I love watching you work, and that's why I was obviously drawn to you initially.
Yeah,
it's
thanks.
pretty obvious, just like I said earlier, the feel that you have of the horse.
The relationship, you know, like you mentioned just a little while when we started this interview, they're tuned in. Everything I do, they're softly, do you need me? I'm asleep right now? Oh, you asked? Okay, I'm here. You know, we are constantly having a conversation. And it is possible. It is possible. You know, you're talking in your eyes, you're talking in your body, your horses are wrapped around you, they're peaceful and quiet and at ease in your space, and yet it just is quickly responsive, you know, as responsive as you need them to be.
Yeah.
And what is softness too? Softness is a place within where there's no resistance, where there's no opposition, and it's a mental thing and an emotional thing, I think, for any species. You know, if we are trapped emotionally, and I deal with this all the time with the energy work and the healing aspect of my work with people and horses, but if you're trapped emotionally, there's brace and tightness in your body, and it's on many levels, even in the cells, on the fascia tissue, on many layers. And it's amazing, you know, any kind of trauma or anything that you've been living with that's been painful for a while, and you hold on to that. Well, the horses do too. They're such high, you know, they're highly emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent, and they feel that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is softness?
Yeah, well, I think this has been great. I hope that...
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, thank you for doing the interview.
Thank you.
And I think that we're going to put some resources up, so, you know, if you like what you're hearing, and if you've seen some of Caroline's work and been as impressed and intrigued as I was, we're going to have some resources that you can, you know, get in touch with her and learn more if you want to do that.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you.
And also for the, you know, my few days here, I had such a good time.
Yep, it's been a pleasure.
If you want to come to sunny Florida, I would highly recommend
Thank you.
Caroline's farm.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.